Welcome to part 6 of the Entrepreneurship Glossary series, Team and Culture. In this session, we're going to explore one of the most underrated yet most critical aspects of building a startup. Not funding, not product, not marketing, but the people behind everything. Because here's the truth. A great product built by a weak team, but an average product built by a strong team can evolve, improve, and win. This session covers 18 essential terms that will help you understand how great teams are built, how culture is shaped, and how execution actually happens. Because in the end, the product is the output, but the team is the input. So let's quickly look at all 18 concepts we'll cover in this session. This is not just a list, it's a complete system of building a team. We start with the most critical, important decision, and that's the co-founder, followed by the founding team. Then we will definitely talk about equity split, vesting, ESOPs, not necessarily in the same order. For example, equity split, vesting, and ESOPs decide right who owns what, how incentives are aligned. Then we'll move definitely to culture and culture fit. These define how people behave and how decisions are made. Then execution. It's all about hiring, firing, org chart, delegation, accountability. This is where most startups either scale or completely break. Then performance systems like OKRs and KPIs. And these ensure people are not just working, but moving in the right direction. Then communication tools like one-on-one meetings, and finally some modern work systems like remote first, async work, and decision rights. By the end of the session, you won't just understand teams, you will understand how companies actually function. So let's start with the most important decision you will ever make as a founder, and that's choosing your co-founder. Now, a co-founder is a person who joins a startup in the founding stage, shares significant ownership, takes responsibility, right, or for building the company alongside you. And these are people who are just not employees. In fact, they're not employees, I will say. They are team members, actually. They are part of your business, so they are your business partners. A co-founder is the person you will disagree with, depend on, struggle with, and grow with for the next 10 to 15 years. So this is not a short-term decision, this is a long-term commitment. Now, why having a co-founder is important, right? Because co-founder conflict is the number one reason startups fail at an early stage. It's not funding, it's not product, it's not market timing, it's not people. It's actually having a co-founder conflict, right? So what you need to look for before even choosing your co-founder, look for complementary skills, not the same strengths, shared values, okay, especially under pressure, and most importantly, how you handle conflict, because conflicts will happen. The question is, can you resolve it? Okay. One of the common mistakes that founders do is they choose co-founders based on friendship, but friendship is not enough. Startups test people in ways normal relationships never do. There are different types of co-founders. Okay, typically strong teams have complementary roles, such as the builder. Builder is someone who can actually build the product. The seller, someone who can sell, pitch, and raise money. The designer, someone who shapes user experience. The operator, someone who runs the system and execution. The domain expert, someone who understands their industry deeply. So remember this clearly. A co-founder is not a hire, it's a marriage. Choose as carefully as you would choose your life partner. Now let's move beyond the co-founder and talk about something called the founding team. The founding team is a small group of people, usually 2 to 5 individuals, who build the startup from its earliest stage. This includes co-founders and the first few employees who join very early. In plain English, if I have to put it, the founding team is not just a group of people, it's the DNA of the company. These are people who define how things are done, set the standards of execution, and shape the culture from day one. At this stage, there's no stability, no salary, no guarantee of success. The only thing people are joining for is the belief in the founder, belief in the idea, the belief in the journey. A strong founding team has four key qualities. First is the complementary skills. Not everyone doing the same thing, right? Shared values, which is alignment on how decisions are made, high conflict tolerance, ability to disagree and still move forward, and a bias toward action, not overthinking, but executing. A powerful example is Zepto. The founding team included Adit Palicha, Kevin Levora, and a small group of engineers. They had no experience, no credibility, no funding initially, but they had one thing, that is speed. Within just 6 months, they built and launched 10-minute delivery. This is the power of a strong founding team. Now let's talk about something that founders often misunderstand, and that's called the culture fit. We'll introduce culture a little later, but let's understand culture fit. A culture fit is the degree to which a person's value, working style, and behavior align with the team. Culture fit is not like, do I like this person? It is like, will this person make decisions the same way we do when no one is watching? Many founders hire people who are similar to them, right? Same background, same personality. This creates echo chamber. Uh, no new ideas, no challenge, no growth. So you should hire for value fit and not the personality fit. You want diversity of thinking but alignment in values. Let's take another example of Zerodha. Zerodha hires people based on, let's say, intellectual curiosity and ownership mindset, not just having finance background or finance knowledge. So, someone from a non finance background who reads deeply and thinks independently can fit the culture, but someone highly qualified who waits for instructions will not. Skills can be taught, culture cannot. So, hire people who think differently but decide with the same values. Your first few hires don't just work, they define what your company becomes. Let's start with the question most founders avoid until it's too late. Okay, who owns what? And this is called the equity split. Now, equity split is a percentage of ownership assigned to each co-founder at the beginning of the company, and this decides who owns how much, who has control, and who benefits the most when the company succeeds. Equity split answers one simple question. When the company becomes valuable, who gets how much? Okay, this is one of the most important decisions you will ever make, and also one of the most uncomfortable. That's why many founders delay it, but delaying it makes it worse later. Founders often uh, do equal splits without discussing roles, don't attach vesting, or rely on verbal agreements without documentation. These mistakes lead to conflict when things become serious. So equity should be based on split should be based on, in fact, contribution, who is doing what. It should be based on role, who is leading which function. Should be based on risk, who is leaving what behind to build. And the most importantly, everything should be clearly documented from day one. We introduce this term vesting. Vesting comes the concept, right, that it's essentially, talking about the protecting the company, right? It means you earn your equity over time instead of getting it all upfront. Okay, let me explain to you in plain English, right? Time equals ownership. You don't get all your shares on day one. You earn them as you continue building the company. The most common structure is 4-year vesting with a 1-year cliff. Let's understand this step by step. For the first 12 months, you get 0%. This is called the cliff. And at the end of the 12 months, you receive 25% of your equity. After that, the remaining 75% is earned gradually over the next 36 months, which means every month you earn a small portion. Let's take some example. Let's say you have 30% of share in the company, right, with 4-year vesting. After 1 year, you get 25% of the 30%, which is equal to 7.5%. After 2 years, you would have earned roughly 15%. If you leave at that point, you only keep what you have earned. The remaining unearned equity goes back to the company. Okay, I hope you've understood why vesting is important. So vesting protects the startup from early exits. Now imagine a co-founder leaves after 6 months without vesting. Uh, they would still own a large share without contributing long term. With vesting, this risk is eliminated. So equity is not given, it's earned over time. Equity split defines ownership, vesting protects fairness. Together, they create long term alignment. So don't avoid this conversation. The earlier you clarify this ownership, the stronger your foundation becomes. Now, let's talk about something that can completely change how your team thinks and behaves. That's called the ESOP. ESOP stands for Employee Stock Option Plan. It's a program that gives employees the right to buy shares of the company at a fixed price in the future. ESOP means your employees don't just work for you, they own a part of what you're building. They're not just employees anymore. They start thinking like owners. In early stage startups, you often cannot pay very high, salaries, but you can offer something else, future upside. You're saying, join us now, build this with us. And if we succeed, you will succeed. So when people have ESOPs, they take more ownership. They care about long-term success. They think beyond their job role, and they stay longer. In India, ESOPs are taxed both when exercised and when sold. So it's important to structure them carefully and understand the implications. ESOP turns employee into partners in the journey. Now we move to something even more powerful that's called culture. We already introduced culture fit. So culture is the set of values, behaviors, and norms, and unwritten rules, and define how people work inside the company. Culture is not office perks, fancy setups, free food. Culture is what people do when the founder is not in the room. Culture is the operating system of your company. It decides how decisions are made, how people behave, how conflicts are handled, and what gets rewarded. Culture is not what you say. Culture is what you reward and what you tolerate. If you tolerate your poor performance, that becomes your culture. If you reward ownership and accountability, it becomes your culture. So culture is not written in a document. It is built through hiring decisions, firing decisions, daily behavior, and leadership example. Culture is the behavior you reward, plus the behavior you tolerate. You don't build culture once, you build it every single day, through every decision, every hire, and every action. Let's start with a powerful framework used by some of the best companies in the world called OKRs. OKRs stand for Objectives and Key Results. It's a goal-setting system where the objective defines what you want to achieve, and the key results define how you measure success. OKRs turn vague ambitions into measurable execution. Instead of saying we want to grow faster, you define it clearly. Let's structure it. First, the objective. This is qualitative, inspiring, and directional, of course. Let's take an example. Become the leading startup program for students. Then let's talk about the key results. These are specific, measurable, and time-bound. For example, reach rupees 1 crore monthly revenue, enroll 500 students, achieve 80% course completion rate. The objective gives direction, the key results give measurement. Together, they create focus. For example, at a startup program, the objective could be help 100 students build real startups, right? 100 students enrolled, 80% complete the program, 50 students pitch publicly. Now, the goal is not vague anymore. It's a clear, trackable thing, right? If you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. Now, let's move to something that runs continuously called KPIs. Now, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicators. These are metrics that track the ongoing health of your business. In plain English, KPIs are like a dashboard that tell you whether your business is running well every single week. Um, let's understand the difference between OKRs and KPIs. OKRs are ambitious, short term, and goal oriented. KPIs are continuous, stable, and operational. Okay. Let's talk about these in as examples, by function. So let's take the product function, the product role. So here we have daily active users, feature usage, then crash rate. In sales, it's like deals closed, pipeline value, customer acquisition cost. In operations, it's like delivery time, support tickets resolved. In founder dashboard, it's like revenue growth, runway, customer satisfaction. OKRs tell you, where you want to go. KPIs tell you how you're doing right now, right? OKRs drive ambition, KPIs track reality. A great team is not just. So let's understand the difference between OKRs and KPIs. OKRs are ambitious, short term, and goal oriented. KPIs are continuous, stable, and operational. Let's take examples by function. In product, uh, daily active users, feature usage, crash rate. In sales, deals closed, pipeline value, customer acquisition cost. In operations, delivery time, support tickets resolved. In founder dashboard, it's revenue growth, runway, customer satisfaction. So the key insight is OKRs tell you where you want to go. KPIs tell you how you're doing right now. OKRs drive ambition, KPIs track reality. A great team is not just busy, a great team is aligned and measured. And that is what OKRs and KPIs create. Let's start with something that determines the future of your company. That's called hiring. Hiring is the process of finding, attracting, evaluating, and onboarding people into your company. Every hire you make shapes culture, especially in the first 10 to 20 hires do, because they become the template for everyone who joins after them. After finding product market fit, hiring is the highest leverage activity for a founder because your company will grow as fast as your people. Most founders hire fast and fire slow, which is exactly the wrong approach. The right approach is hire slow and fire fast. Before hiring someone and yourself, ask yourself a question. Am I comfortable with this person making decisions without me? If the answer you get is no, you're not ready to hire them. Many successful Indian startups like Razorpay, Zerodha, and Grow hired their early team through trusted networks and referrals instead of random job applications because early hires are too important to get wrong. Your first hires don't just do the work, they define how the work gets done. Now let's talk about the skill that separates small startups from scalable companies, and that's called delegation. Delegation means assigning responsibility and authority to someone else while still being accountable for the final outcome. Delegation is how a founder stops being the bottleneck. If every decision goes through you and the company, grows only as fast as you can think and act. Founders who cannot delegate become the ceiling of their own company's growth. Okay. Uh, how to delegate properly? Define the customer, the outcome clearly, give authority, not just tasks, set check-in points, hold people accountable for results, not methods, praise publicly, correct privately. Delegation is not losing control, it's multiplying your impact. If you don't delegate, you don't scale. The goal is not to do everything yourself. The goal is to build a team that cannot, do anything without you being there, right? It should be able to do everything on their own. Firing, we will talk about in terms of ending someone's employment due to, let's say, poor performance, culture misalignment, redundancy, or misconduct. But firing is not about removing a person, it's about protecting the team, protecting the culture, protecting company's future. The most common mistake founders make is they fire too slowly. When you delay this decision, the cost is not just salary, it affects team morale, product quality, and execution speed. If you're already thinking, should I let this person go? then you have probably already waited too long. First, give clear feedback early. Firing should never be a surprise. Second, document performance issues. Third, be direct, be respectful, and be brief. Fourth, protect the company's dignity, but at the same time, protect the team's health. Delayed firing is one of the most expensive mistakes in any startup. Now, let's move to something that brings structure to chaos. That's called the org chart. The org chart or organization chart is a visual map that shows roles, reporting hires, teams, and authority within a company. Think of the org chart as the skeleton of your company. You may not see it directly, but it holds everything together. As your team grows beyond 10 people, things become weak. They start breaking. People duplicate actually work. Decisions become unclear. Accountability gets lost. So it clearly defines who owns what, who reports to whom, and who makes decisions. Startups often began with a flat structure, right? They moved to a hierarchical structure and sometimes used cross-functional structures as they grow. These are good startups. The org chart should not be static. It should evolve every time roles change or team grows. Without structure, growth creates chaos. Great companies don't just grow fast, they grow with clarity, and that clarity comes from structure. Let's start with one of the most underrated yet powerful tools in management called the one on one meeting. One on one meeting is a regular private meeting between a manager and a team member, typically 30 to 60 minutes, held weekly or bi weekly. A one on one meeting is not like status update, it's a conversation, it's a space where you understand what is really happening inside your team. Most problems in a startup don't appear suddenly, they build slowly. Frustration, confusion, misalignment. And if you don't catch them early, they become expensive. So, what you need to discuss during this one on ones? What's going well, what's not working, what's blocking progress, what support is needed, career growth and development, and feedback both ways. Many first time founders think one on ones are a waste of time because they don't feel structured, but the reality is the opposite. This is where trust is built, retention happens, and problems are solved early. One on ones don't slow you down, they prevent bigger problems later. Now, let's talk about the engine that turns plans into results. Accountability means being responsible for your actions, your decisions, and your outcomes. Accountability means you said you would do something, so we expect it to be done. And if it is not done, we talk about why honestly. Accountability is not the same as blame. Blame looks backward. Who caused the problem? Accountability looks forward. Who will fix it? And by when? Set clear expectations if you want to build accountability. Write down commitments. Define deadlines. Review progress regularly. Celebrate when done. And discuss openly when missed. Accountability works best when there is no fear but full ownership. No blame but no escape. So great teams are not just talented, they follow through, they take ownership, and that is what accountability creates. Let's start with a concept that has completely changed how companies operate, and that's called remote first. Remote first is a work model where working remotely is the default, not an exception. The entire company is designed assuming people are not in the same physical location. Remote first does not mean you can work from home sometimes. It means the company is built for remote work from day one. No one is disadvantaged for not being in the office. There's a difference between remote friendly, that is, office is primary, remote is allowed. And remote first essentially means remote is the default design. Now, why this remote first matters? Because it allows you to hire talent from anywhere, reduce dependency on location, build flexible teams, and scale faster. Companies like Zoho and Freshworks build strong distributed teams across India, right? even before remote work became mainstream. And after 2020, many startups shifted to remote first, but the ones that really performed well made it, work long term. So remote first is not a policy, it's a design decision. Now let's talk about something that makes remote work actually effective. It's called the async work. Async work means people do not need to be online at the same time to collaborate. Communication happens through written or recorded formats. Async means I explain something clearly, you read or watch it later, and we move forward without needing a meeting. Async is documents, recorded videos, messages. Uh, right. Sync is meetings, calls, live discussions. So that's the basic difference between async and sync. Async work allows deep focus time, fewer interruptions, better documentation, and faster global collaboration. So, startups that depend too much on meetings waste their most valuable resource, focused attention. If it can be written, doesn't need a meeting. So, the future of work is not about where you work, it's about how effectively you communicate. Decision rights refers to clearly defining who has the authority to make which decisions inside a company. It answers a simple but critical question: who decides that? In plain English, without decision rights, every decision either goes to the founder or gets made randomly by whoever speaks the loudest, and both are dangerous. When no one knows who owns a decision, things slow down, confusion increases, accountability disappears, and execution suffers. Decision rights remove ambiguity, right? And ambiguity is the biggest enemy of speed in a startup. When everyone knows who is responsible, decisions happen faster and execution improves. This is framework called RACI, right? It's a simple way to define decision rights. R stands for responsible. This is a person who does the work and executes the task. A stands for accountable. This is the person who makes the final decision, right? There must be one person only who is accountable. C stands for consulted. These are people whose inputs matter the most, and they're taken while making the decisions, right? And I stands for informed. These are people who are told about the decision after the decision is made. So suppose you're launching a new feature, the product manager will be responsible for that. The founder will be accountable for that. Engineering and sales teams obviously will be consulted, but the marketing will be informed about this. These are this is the new feature that has been built, and this is how it has to be. Then they will decide, the selling part. So everyone knows their role. There's no confusion, no delays. So if everyone can decide, no one really decides. And if no one knows who decides, nothing gets decided. Clarity of decision creates speed of execution. As your startup grows, you cannot be involved in every decision. The goal is not to control everything. The goal is to build a system where decisions happen without you. So let's quickly bring everything together and recap the full system of building a team and culture. We started with the most important decision called co-founder, your business partner, someone who build with and make long-term decisions with. Then we moved on understanding the founding team, the first few people who define how your company operates, especially in the early days, right? Alongside that, we understood something called the culture fit. And it's not about liking someone, but about aligning on values and on decision making. Then we discussed ownership, which included two terms like equity split, who owns that, and vesting, which means earning quality over time. These ensure fairness and long term commitment. After that, we covered ESOP, which is a way to make employees think like owners and stay invested in the company's success. Then we understood culture, the behaviors, the norms, and the unwritten rules, in fact, that define how your company works. Next came the execution systems like OKRs, KPIs. Then we understood the how we have to build the team, right? It's all about hiring, delegation, firing, org chart. Then we discussed some leadership tools like one-on-one meetings, accountability. Then there are modern work systems like remote first, async work, decision rights. Right. So when you look at all these together, this is not just a list of terms. This is the operating system of a startup team. How people work, how decisions are made, and how execution happens. And now you don't just understand teams, you understand how companies are built. And with that, part 6 is complete. You have just gone through 18 essential concepts that define how great teams are built, from choosing the right co founder to building your founding team, from deciding ownership to creating a strong culture, from hiring and delegation to accountability and decision making. This is not just theory, this is how real companies are built. And here's the one big idea you should take away from this entire session: great companies are built by great teams. The product you see is just the output, but the team behind it is the real input. If you build the right team, you can fix a weak product. But if you have the wrong team, even a great product will not survive. So don't just focus on building features, focus on building team, focus on building culture, focus on building trust. Because in the long run, that is what creates lasting companies. And in the next part, we move to something equally powerful called marketing and brand: how you position, how you communicate, and how the world sees you. Until then, keep building, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you so much for watching. Do like and subscribe.